Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the very first V100 show. Very honored to be here to have the first episode hosted by myself, Anthony Spiteri. I'm the Regional CTO for APJ at Veeam Software and the lead cloud and service provider technologist. And it's my pleasure to host this first V100 show, a show that was the brainchild of our great community members in the product strategy team, Maddie, Nikki, and Sophia. Kudos to them for making this happen. This is the first show, so very exciting to and honored actually to be the first presenter and host of the show. So today I've got Greg Barney from Opta9. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Anthony.
Yeah, and hey, look, we're going to get into a little bit about why actually I'm going to call you Barney from now on, and as opposed to Greg, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I just wanted to start by, hopefully a lot of you caught the episode 0, the seed show that Kirsten and Maddie did last week, and got a little bit of an understanding about what this show is about. This is a community-driven show to really highlight our really excellent technical community that we have in the V100. As a reminder, the V100 is made up of our Vanguard community, our Legend community, and our own Veeam MVP community. And just to explain very quickly what that is, the Vanguard is our original OG community that started up a number of years ago. I was one of the original members of that group as well. If you can see, you can't actually see it in the background, but my original trophy is up there, which I have a very, very pride and place in my office. And then we brought in the Legends a couple of years ago, and then the MVPs are the internal champions. They are Veeam employees who can participate in this V100. So together we are the V100, and it's a great group. It's a very interesting group of professionals in our customers, partners, and other areas of the business inside Veeam. But more importantly, these guys are our technical champions, and that's what it all comes down to, being a technical champion for Veeam Software and the company. And the one thing that Veeam has done really well throughout its whole existence, even from the very start, was making sure that we really handled the technical decision makers and made them feel special. And this V100 now in 2023, this show and beyond, really is going to start to highlight that. So the first show is featuring Barney. Barney, I just wanted to quickly get a little bit of an intro into yourself first. Maybe talk about why we call you Barney instead of Greg, and give us a little bit of a background as to who you work for.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yeah, the calling me by my last name thing is kind of funny, but it also kind of speaks to where I kind of got my legs under me in terms of IT. So I've been doing IT for a very, very, very long time, and where I really kind of started really hitting my stride, I guess you could say, was back in the day. I worked for Geek Squad for a number of years, and Geek Squad has this whole culture, if you ever knew anything about it. And everyone is called agent, so and so, and so we usually call people by their last names. Yeah, so it was Agent Barney, and that just kind of spurned off with friends and everything like that. And even my wife, who I met at Geek Squad, she started just calling me Barney. So even now, when she's around my family, she has to kind of force herself to say Greg. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's quite funny, right? And actually, it's funny because I know that I know that Michael Cade, who works in our team as well, his wife calls him Katie as well. And I've always thought that was a little bit, sorry, Michael, but I thought it was a bit strange. But now that two people are doing it, maybe it's not so strange, right?
Yeah, you're the odd man out.
So yeah, so Geek Squad is, I think, a little bit like Geeks to You. We have Geeks to You here in Australia. Is that basically like mobile IT tech people going around and basically being the geeks that go out and fix all that IT sort of stuff? Is that the idea behind that?
Yeah, pretty similar, though I was inside of the stores. So I was in like a retail setting. So yeah, you have people coming in with their computers and, they have viruses on it. And that's kind of where I also got a bit of a passion around, things that would end up becoming ransomware, crypto lockers, viruses in general, and just kind of, securing data really. Because even there was just a very big focus around backups and protecting data for customers. So everything kind of bloomed out of that, experience into where I am today, working for Opta9 and helping secure customers' data using things like Veeam.
Yeah. So just before you tell us what you do at Opta9, I did want to ask, because this is like supposed to be a fun show, right? It's a bit different to what we've done on the channel before. It's different to what I've done. I host a couple of podcasts. They're a little bit more serious and a bit more, whatever. This one's a bit of a fun one, much like the stuff that we did during COVID. Remember COVID? Yeah, we used to do a few weird things and funky things during COVID. And this reminds me of that in a good way. But I wanted to ask the audience, someone made a comment about, it was interesting that we had Alfred and Vanny sitting there on the screen. Put into the comments who you think is cuter, Alfred or Vanny. I know who I would answer because I'm an old school Vanguard, and that might give it away. But let's hear it in the chat. Who's the better and cuter mascot, Alfred or Vanny? Even if you can't make up your minds, that's cool as well. So anyway, that's a bit of a side note. So yeah, Barney, tell me what you do at Opti9 and tell the people what you do at Opti9.
Sure. So I'm one of the Veeam team leads at Opti9. So I lead the US based team, and that's everything from R&D to new feature sets, to being a point of escalation, and then also trying to get what we do out there, to the broader community in terms of how we can protect data. So it's a really neat gig. Honestly, you get to tinker with a lot of the new stuff that's coming out, especially from Veeam, and other data protection angles that are emerging now, like object storage and things like that.
So in terms of your involvement in the community, I want to get to it, but I think I wanted to tell the people why I'm doing this and why I'm here and why I'm part of this great group within Veeam Product Strategy, which is so in tune and in touch with our community. I'm a community guy from a long way back. I learned very early on in my career that it was important to be able to share your knowledge with other people, and actually in doing that helps other people grow. It helps yourself grow. It helps you get better at your technical skill set. It helps you get better in your knowledge. It helps you get better in your relationships. And through that, also, from my perspective, it helps your career a hell of a lot, right? So I think for me, being grounded in the community and understanding that we blog, we create content, we attend events, we end up being parts of communities like this. I think back to my early days when I was in a program called the VMware Champions program. It was a precursor to the Expert program. That kind of kicked me off there and did a bit of Microsoft stuff. And then the Vanguard thing came along and it just kept on rolling, and you make some great friends there. So I think being part of a community is amazing. And that's why, I think it's really important to myself. And it's why I was like really, really thrilled to be here to be the host of this first show. But Barney, tell me what community means to you, and then follow that up by how you got started in the community.
Right. Yeah. So, I think community is really important because, among other things, it helps you see that other people have similar challenges and similar goals. And it really fosters a lot of collaboration, and you have people to talk to about things that you're working on, things that are interesting to you. Like I know one thing with Vanguard specifically was, when ChatGPT started coming around pretty heavy, a lot of us were tinkering with it and sharing ideas and what we were doing with it. And I thought that was really, really cool. And, for me, it kind of just means that you're not alone, right? And that you have other professionals that are doing similar things that you are doing. And it helps you kind of strengthen yourself too, because if you're having trouble with something or you're working on a specific problem, you can get help from others, and vice versa. If you see somebody that's working on something that maybe they haven't touched as much but you have, it gives you a chance to kind of express that and go and deep dive into it, and then you kind of feel better about yourself too, right? You know what I mean? Because when you're seeing that you're able to teach back things that to other people and see how it benefits them, I think that's really huge. And I've definitely been on the receiving end of that a lot, in terms of people helping me and asking questions inside of the community, and getting that help.
Yeah, and not everyone is tuned in that way either. I think there is a level of ego and selfishness in the technical community as well. It's kind of historic and systemic of the community, and for whatever reason, it is what it is, right? But I think there's a certain subset which understand that sharing, again, makes you better and you stronger, right? And the amount of times that I've had people come to me and say, hey, that blog that you wrote even like 10 years ago now, it's crazy to think, help me today. I'm like, how the hell are you running that older version of ESX, or what the hell are you doing, right? But from that point of view, there's a good sense of achievement when that happens. And on the flip side, when you find something that the community's written, and the person, that in itself is pretty awesome, right? So, hey, just on that, from a Twitter point of view, I was supposed to ask this early, and I've said this to you before when we first met, like Replicus is your Twitter handle, and I reckon it's one of the greatest Twitter handles of all time in existence, right? Elon Musk should be retweeting that, and you should be getting all the bits and pieces there. How did you come up with that? Obviously, it's for me. It's a bit of. Is it a play on the fact that you are into DR and replication and all that kind of stuff, or is there another meaning to it?
It's a play on that for sure, but there's also another meaning, So to your question about how do you get into the community, similar to what you were just saying with the blog post and even your own actually that I'd come across but before I was really present. You scroll through Twitter and you throw in Veeam and you're really not expecting to find a lot, and it's just this sea of people that are collaborating with each other and boosting each other, right? And saying like, oh, check out so and so's blog post, and people retweeting things. And it's my day job, doing Veeam pretty much, and so I was like, what, I kind of want to get in on this and just, feel a part of that community. And so I was sitting there trying to think of like a Twitter handle to me, because I was kind of tired of sitting around and lurking. And at first the idea that I had, and I guess it's kind of like that like imposter syndrome thing, is like, oh man, like I'm going to go on here and like, what if I post something and I sound like really stupid? And so the idea that came to my head was like, what if there was somebody who just like had no idea, but they were like a philosopher level like Twitter handle, and so it was just kind of like a jab at myself. And so I just went on Google and I just Google searched replication in Greek or Latin or something, and it just came out as Replicatius. And I was like, oh, all right, that's kind of cool. And then I don't know, I saw the handle and I was like, all right, yeah, like I'm gonna keep that. Like I'm not gonna just like sit behind it and use it to kind of lurk. Like I'm gonna get out there. And I think it was neat because I approached it with like kind of like a self-depreciating kind of, I'm never gonna know as much as these people that I see every day in and day out on Twitter and stuff. But then you realize in interacting with them and everything like that, and how welcoming and friendly everybody is, that maybe you are deserving of the Replicatius Twitter handle.
That's quite interesting. Yeah. I get that, and that's kind of cool as well. Because you're right. Like, I mean, my Twitter handle is kind of boring, right? It's just my name. It's nothing. So I think people go either way with that, right? So I think it's pretty cool that you can, just basically do that. And you're right. You and I know other Twitter handles that have become famous for, what they are not in terms of a name. It's something that it's a little bit more creative. So it's kudos to you for getting out there. How do you find Twitter at the moment? It's a question without notice, but obviously, Twitter's had a few challenges. I still think it's pretty cool. But what's your thoughts on the current state of tech Twitter, and is it still useful for the community?
Yeah, so I go back and forth on it. I think in terms of tech Twitter, honestly, I think it's good. I don't find that it's that terrible. But I can see it on, because I have like another account, that I'll use just for, following other things. Like I would segregate like what I'm following and stuff. So I have one that's just like, like sports and video game news and things like that. And that gets kind of messy at times, but I think because I'm so dialed in on my Replicatius, like my actual one that I actually use, which is my Replicatius handle, it seems very, I don't think much has changed on it, honestly. I still think it's kind of useful. I think some of the changes that were made in recent times, there was like a big, hullabaloo about it, but I never really felt it. But I'm also not living and breathing on it, so maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, but I think it's fine, and it's a great plug-in to the community, right? Because I know that other things have tried to, take off. Like Blue Sky, I got a handle on that, and I was all excited, but my feed never loads. And I asked them about it, and they're like, all right, cool, we got your bug report, we'll let you know once it's fixed. So like I can't use it, but everyone's still on Twitter or X or whatever, and the community seems very tight on there.
Yeah, we're Team Twitter. I like that. That's cool. Or Team X, whatever you want to call it. Twitter X, formerly known as Twitter. Hey, let's go into a little bit more about the community within Opta9, right? Because obviously, a few people would know Siggy, the CTO of Opta9, a good friend of myself, and I've had him on a couple of my podcasts as well, and met him at numerous events and whatnot, and been on numerous webinars with WebAir. And what was it called before Opta9? Was it WebAir? I always forget. What was it called before?
Yeah, WebAir. Yep.
There you go. I got it right. Opti9's a lot cooler. I was thinking that in the car on the way over. It's a lot cooler name, isn't it? WebAir was cool.
Yeah, it really is.
As long as you're still in that same data center, that very fancy data center. As long as you got you guys, if you want to search a really funky, cool data center, one of the coolest in the world, check it out. Can you say what it is? Where it is? I think it's not a secret, is it? What's the data center that you guys run out of, the main one?
It's in Garden City on Long Island.
Yeah, it's all fancy. Anyway, side note there. All right, tell us about Opti9 and tell us about, what you're working on within Opti9 and how it was driven from a community spirit to become a product which effectively is doing pretty well in the DR space.
Yeah, so Opti9 we do a lot. And one of the main focuses is, disaster recovery, backups as a service. And early on, a lot of it was really trying to figure out how to best leverage the product, not just for us in terms of usability, but also for, our customers. And so, Siggy being so tight with the community, I think he had a lot of opportunity to really talk and discuss and, feel out challenges that we were having and get feedback on those and share ideas. And we were able to, build a lot of different products. One is the DR Ready, which we'll be probably talking about later. We have a really great optics portal. And then inside of that, portal, which is pulling in a bunch of information from Veeam's own Veeam Service Provider Console and API. We've also built out Observer, which is like a ransomware detection and anomaly detection tool, which is really cool because, we see that Veeam is making a lot of really great strides in terms of, ransomware detection, like was announced at Veeam On. And so, something like Observer is, how do you protect and monitor, the actual data protection plane rather than just the individual, backup files and detecting those for ransom or detecting ransomware on those and things like that and anomalous changes. And so I think a big part of it, again, to come back to the community is, having that feeling in the back of your head that like, okay, I'm gonna work on something that maybe it's gonna be good for me and our team and for our customers. But there's that geeky thing in the back of your head that's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna build this thing, I'm gonna work on this thing, and I'm gonna be able to show the guys, or I'm gonna be able to show the community, and I know that they're gonna get kind of gassed up about it, because we're always in there, like patting each other on the back and showing off what we've worked on, what we've done, whether it's, blog posts about new features or, products that are being built on top of Veeam as bolt-ons and stuff. So I think that's a really big driving force with a lot of it is just knowing that community is there and you're going to be able to kind of share what you've created and get feedback on it.
Yeah. So how did you, this DR Ready that we're going to show you in a demo actually later on, which is pretty cool. I think it's an awesome product that you've kind of run with. What was the genesis for that? Like, what made you sit there and think, apart from maybe Siggy saying, "Hey, build me something," what was the actual genesis for you to start that project? And take me through the initial stages of how you would have thought about, about the concept, putting it into first prototype, and then maybe how you leveraged the community to be able to get it to a point where you can, put it out there as a product.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a few different things that kind of spurred the creation of this. A really big one is obviously object storage, and seeing the trend in the direction, not just in general IT, but in backups as well, and Veeam's own embracing of object storage and being able to connect to object storage, use it as repositories. And we wanted to kind of build on top of that, specifically, customers that may be using object storage existing, whether that's, Wasabi or AWS, and trying to make more of that backup and make it more usable beyond just simple restore or local restore. And, the idea kind of came up of, well, there's people out there and there's companies out there that might not need or want, full bells and whistles, DR with, very short, RTPO. And, maybe they just need to check a box, or maybe they don't have as critical systems. Maybe they have a hybrid approach where they have some systems that are very sensitive and ones that aren't. How can we kind of meet that need and leverage object for it? And so we came up with DR Ready. which allows us to connect to the same bucket that you're sending backups to. And basically, long story short, restore that data into, a virtual private cloud on our side in our data center that you can then connect to through vCloud Director, log into it, use networking and get back online. So it's a slower, restore obviously than something like traditional, replication, but it puts an extra tool in the tool belt for a lot of different companies, and it also adds to a hybrid approach as well, because maybe again you have systems that need to come up right away, but maybe you have day 2 or day 3 systems that don't need to come up as quickly, so you can save some cost there and still get a really reliable restore operation, in Veeam.
Yeah, I think this is cool, right? I think it's cool for a number of different reasons. The first one is, when we first released object storage as a target, firstly through the Scarlet Bucket repository, was even being used there. I was deep into that feature, deep into the proving ground, with my service provider background, understanding what providers potentially could do. It's interesting that that was maybe 4 years ago now that we released it in V10. Even 9.5 update 4 I think was the first capacity tier version. Yeah, so it was. I mean, again, COVID just 2 years gone. Anyway, so I think from that point of view, what I'm kind of happy and I'm really excited that providers have taken this on, because it's what I envisioned for that feature. So it really warms my cockles to make sure, I can say cockles, can't I? I think that's a word. That really warms my heart and the cockles to make sure that, people are actually leveraging this technology for this sort of stuff. And we have seen this from VMware Cloud and AWS. The use case was there from a on-demand recovery. And now what we're seeing is a bare metal scenarios come out where they're leveraging object storage and sending it out to an object storage. The customer puts it in there as a bucket, or as a repository, it becomes a bucket, the bucket gets attached, then they can recover. So effectively, you're doing this as well, but you're getting an extra tick for me because you're leveraging VMware Cloud Director, which, as you know, is part of my history and part of my community story as well. So it's great that it's there. So you mentioned, before we get into demo, we are going to see it, that RTO, that becomes more of the issue, because it's not that instant replication sort of switch on the machine. You do have to wait for it. Have we kind of solved that problem to a certain extent through a couple of reasons? Number one, maybe because the speed of internet connectivity has gotten so fast and acceptable that you can download at hundreds of megs per second, and that's pretty good. And if you parallelize that out with a couple of proxies and a VBR configured in the right way, you can actually get some good streams down to do multiple restores at the same time. Or have people just understood that when you're going to have a service like this, there's a certain SLA that is acceptable? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, definitely a combination of both. And I like that you hit on the internet speed thing, right? Because pipes are just getting bigger and bigger. And also, people are investing more into those things. And just think too, if you're going with a solution like DR Ready and you're saving some money by using that approach, right? Maybe you spend a little bit more, you get a bigger pipe, right? Or maybe during an actual restore operation that's, mission critical, maybe you adjust, at that level to, dedicated line, or, shutting traffic, in other less critical things, then, oh my gosh, restore all the things, so I think that's a big part of it. But also, yeah, just understanding that, not everything has to be, speed of light, in a DR scenario. And we tend to think that way, just because of, look at the threat landscape these days. It's insane. And every other week, you're seeing big names that have, gotten, hit. And so there's this kind of knee jerk sometimes of protect all the things, make sure that they can come up as quickly as possible. But part of having a really, a true BCDR plan is understanding what categories everything falls into. And so again, that kind of hybrid approach. Yeah. So like maybe there, you gotta look at everything and say, where can I appropriately do cost savings, and say, these are my systems that I need up right away so that business can continue. And then, hey, these are some systems that can come up later, and understanding that is going to be a longer, RTO for those systems to come up.
Yeah. And I think as well, what you can do there, right? Like from my point of view, you can use this DR ready scenario, but then that could be for 80% of the workloads. But then that critical 10% or whatever it is, you could use replication, Cloud replication, CDP in, normal snapshot-based replication. So yeah, there's options now, which is always what we intended when we release these different levels of recoverability, of replication, of backup. It just opens up the options to have a holistic approach rather than all or nothing, because you're all slow RTO and you kind of will pay for that,
right.
Or if you want to go the other way, you're going to be really expensive and go the CDP, replication aspect, which is a lot more problematic in some ways as well for lots and lots of workloads, lots and lots of data. So having that option and having Opta9 have the ability to do that is pretty cool. But hey, enough talk. Let's actually take a look at it and see what this amazing, solution that you've built from a community-minded approach as well, mind. Let's remind everyone about that. So maybe if we switch to the demo screen, we can see what